Hello everyone, you know the drill, I am Boulevard. This is the tournament tier list for Tournament Tactician, and today we're going to be taking a look at the first Eternal tier list. Now, as I've been doing for the last little while, I went ahead and went live on Twitch to compile this with some of the community. Some of them weren't happy with some of the way that things were set out, but hey, you know, that's always going to be how it is. And honestly, I don't want you to, think too hard about this, because the best way that I have found to describe the overall meta, as I understand it, is that it's not as open as you think it is. Someone is right. The problem is that everyone has different ideas of what is good, and everyone thinks they are right. And this weekend at the Mastering Runeterra Open, hopefully we can figure out who is actually right. Now, the problem with that is, are people going to look at that and say, oh, okay, that person was right, I was wrong? Or are they going to say, no, 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 I'm still right, I just had a bad weekend, I had a bad performance, I banned incorrectly, I misplayed, something along those lines. And it's all going to kind of culminate in the open, and then, you know, we might still run into, okay, well, you know, the first open was a fluke, I'll get him on the next one. But basically, you really only need to focus on tier 1. Tier 2, tier 3 don't really matter as much. In fact, I don't even know why I put decks in, like, tier 2, tier 3. You should... Most of the time, you should just be looking at tier 1, right? The purpose of tier 2 is, like, decks that are either less consistent or less powerful than tier 1, and then tier 3 is usually, like, kind of counter-picky when we have this many decks in tier 1. That's just how it is, right? Oh, that's supposed to be a 3. Like, if you want to go full aggro, you've got options, right? Poppy Ziggs is obviously one of the premier decks right now, and then you're probably going Anti-Jin and then Pirates, or an aggressive version of Scion. Those are, like, the aggro lineups that we're running into, not a lot of, like, pure aggro lineups. Azir Aurelia has made a bit of a comeback as a deck that, like, you know, it's not the fastest deck out there. It's cosplaying aggro in some matchups. Like, it'll beat a lot of the control decks. Emperor's Dais is a difficult card to deal with. People are down on... landmark destruction because there's not as much like Seraphine as there was in standard. So like the set karmas aren't built over Enzon, so they're not main decking 3 Aftershock. So you know, if you open a Dais or 2 plus like an Azir and then 17 bounce spells, you'll just win the game like you always have. Plunder's, you know, doing okay. But mostly I just want you to look at, like, you know, if you think you have a way to navigate through the meta, understand that this is what most people are going to be bringing. Some combination of these decks. I would say like this right here, probably not a very popular lineup, but I would say it's a pretty good starting point for a lot of people. Like, you know, figure out which one of these decks you don't like or which one you like the most, kind of go from there. This weekend at the Mastering Runeterra Open is for you to go crazy. We've got back-to-back opens after this, so this is where you try the really wild stuff, and then you reel it back in a little bit for the first open, and then if that doesn't work, you reel it back in even further, or you go even harder on balls to the wall. But I don't want you to look at this and think that, you know, you should be building a full tier 3 lineup to counter tier 1, because people are not going to be bringing 3 of these decks in most lineups. They're going to be playing 1 or 2 of them, and then, you know, looking for that third deck that they feel is the powerful one. It's one of those things where, like, the meta, you know, feels very open, but instead of everybody going, oh shit, dude, like, I don't know what the third deck is supposed to be, everyone has a different idea of what their very powerful third deck is. And some of them are wrong, and they will be proven wrong, and they will either accept that or they will not. At the moment, in terms of, like, what I think is looking pretty good outside of tier 1 is I'm liking some of the control tools that we have. Everybody's thinking, like, yeah, you know, what did we get back from rotation? And Vile Feast has been doing kind of what I expected it to. You know, it's been holding it down. That said, like, there's not a lot of aggro, so control is still in a little bit of a weird spot because, again, the meta looks very open. It shouldn't be, but it is. And it's hard to build control to deal with open metas. So, like, if control is going to come out and have a good showing, it's probably going to be more at, like, the second Runeterra Open. Maybe, you know, if we can really put our foot on the gas and hyper-accelerate into the future over the next week, then maybe you can, like, maybe control will be viable by the time we get into the first Open. But for now, that's just, like, what I've been doing on ladder. A lot of people on Twitch rather, were, like, very critical of the Iceborne Spiders. I just want to point out that we had one tournament last weekend, the Saturday Scramble. Iceborne Spiders got second and a top 4. So it's, like, something to keep in mind, right? And as far as, like, the sample lists for all of these, honestly, I don't, from what I understand, nobody actually, like, clicks on the fucking tier list to look through the sample list, so keeping them updated has, I don't think I really need to do that anymore. All of you are just going to go on Runeterra AR, which is what I was doing anyway, or you're going to, like, net deck someone off ladder. So, like, I'm just going to leave that work in your hands, and you can do that instead of me updating these every week. Because there's a couple different versions of these, right? Like, I think Thresh Nasus is still better than Vault's Nasus. I don't think we need to go back to that just yet. I think that the Vaults version of Nasus can beat Thresh Nasus because, you know, they've got more threats, right? They've got the triple Rekindler on top of the Nasus. It's not as aggressive, though. It's not as quick, and you do have that option to just kind of get out aggroed. And I think with the amount of cards that you get back that you just kind of want to fit into Thresh Nasus, the Vaults version just doesn't really make as much. It's a lot tighter on space in a bad way. Scion's got a couple different champion splits. The one that I prefer is triple Draven, double Scion, one Vi. We've seen a couple Samira Scions. I don't know about that one, Chief. Timelines, obviously, we're thinking Trundle, and then, you know, if you want to play Ornn or Nothing or Caitlyn or Gnar, that's fine. There's a Jax timeline deck that's, like, running around that I want you to be aware of, but, like, you know, it exists. It draws timelines or it doesn't, as do most timelines decks. It's the same way with, like, Iceborne Spiders, right? If they draw Iceborne Legacy, they're chilling. If not, they're in a bit of more of a rough spot. But, like, timelines has a better game when they don't draw timelines than Iceborne Spiders does. But honestly, I still like the traditional timelines list, the one that goes back to the It That Stares Buried Nice combo that put timelines on the map in the first place. I think that's really strong. Not much to say about Poppy Ziggs, and I'm sure there will be more Seraphine decks. I think I talked about this pretty much since Eternal came out, where, like, there's going to be a tier 1 Seraphine deck, and it's probably going to be a tier 1 Seraphine Ezreal deck. We just have to find the region combination, and everybody kind of settled on Bandle City immediately. I don't know that it's the best region for it. It was pre-rotation, though, so, like, not a lot of reason to think that it's not. But I think there are other avenues that you can take your Seraphine. You just have to really look inside yourself and ask, like, why am I taking it in a different direction? Maybe you just don't like Ezreal, so you want to go back to Targon and play the Aphelios version or the Victor version or the Vi version. There's so many champions that rotated that were good with Seraphine, so you've got your pick of the litter there. And then, yeah, you know, just from there, it's like I said, meta is more open than it should be. Some people are right, some people are not, but everybody seems really diehard about what they think is good. So this weekend is where people get to put their money where their mouth is, and then next weekend they get to put even more money where their mouth is, and then next weekend more money where their mouth is. But that is going to do it for me. If you want to sign up for the Mastering Runeterra event, I will have a link in the description below to do so. That, of course, will be cast by myself and Sparkling Iced Tea, as it always has been, as it always will be. Jason Florent, if you're watching, you try to fire me, you see what happens. That's a threat. Anyway, guys, good luck this weekend. Good luck in your tournaments.